couple of weeks ago, I made a video about how I think Nvidia could sell off 40% from its all-time high, if not even more. And I had a number of people reach out and ask me, if you're so bearish, why are you still holding on to the majority of your position? Why is it the biggest position in your portfolio? This is a good opportunity to discuss how an investor can be both long and bearish. I'm not your normal long-term investor. If you watch CNBC, you'll see that a long-term investor is someone who has a time frame of 12 to 18 months. My time horizon is 21 years. From today, I opened my position in Nvidia at $15.67 a share, or $15.77 after commissions. I originally bought Nvidia because they had really great graphics cards, which I had been using since the late 1990s. And in 2016, they had just begun to transition into using GPUs in data centers, so I thought it had good long-term prospects. Since then, Nvidia is now up more than 3,000% from where I bought it. It's a pretty good gain, right? However, over those 7 short years, Nvidia has sold off more than 40% 4 times, more than 50% twice, and more than 68% just last year. In my video, I said it could sell off more than 40% from its last high, and my next buy target isn't until $335.62. So why am I still holding on to it? I removed all of the remaining investing capital that I had in my Nvidia position back in April 2020, after the bounce took us much higher. Since then, I've been trimming profits all the way up, and I now have $321.45 taken out in addition to my capital. In other words, each one of the shares that I hold, and it's the biggest position in my portfolio, adds $321.45 to the bottom line. In fact, if Nvidia goes to zero, and I'm adding all the way down, I will have still tripled my investment. Let me repeat that. If the worst case scenario happens, if Nvidia declared bankruptcy, I will have still 3x'd my investment in 7 years. So again, why don't I sell it all? I believe in Nvidia for the long term, and it's always been an expensive stock, even when I bought it in 2016 and even long before that when it came public in the late 90s. However, a lot of people compare Nvidia to Cisco, claiming that, like Cisco, Nvidia is overvalued, will crash, and will never return to its highs. However, this isn't even remotely an accurate comparison. Cisco cannot innovate. Let me repeat that. It's not that Cisco doesn't innovate, it's that it cannot innovate. Cisco makes networking products, and networking products are determined by a consortium, which decides what the standards are going to be for the next generation of networking products. Think about it. There are a lot of different manufacturers of networking products. If the standards weren't there, you wouldn't be able to interchange cables with routers, with switches, and that's just not going to work for the industry. So there has to be a standard. Cisco then takes that standard and does make some of the best products in the networking sector. But since they are limited by that standard, they can't actually innovate. Nvidia has no such standard. They can innovate, and they've demonstrated, if nothing else, over the more than 30 years of their existence, that they know how to innovate. So while I am super bearish for the short term, and for me, short term is 6 months to 18 months, because I think that the demand for the H100 and H200 is overdeveloped, I am bullish for the long term. I do believe that Nvidia will innovate and develop new technology in the future and have a leapfrog of magnitudes beyond the performance they offer today. However, Nvidia always goes through cycles. First, Nvidia releases a transformative new product launch. There's then overstated demand, which causes a whole bunch of investors and traders to jump on the stock and create a hype bubble that inflates Nvidia's stock dramatically. Once the true demand is stated, which, while high, doesn't meet the expectations of the street, Nvidia starts to sell off. This sell-off scares those new investors and traders and creates what's called a selling cascade, where the stock will eventually crater. At this point, Jim Cramer of Mad Money will come out and tell you to short it, which is when you know it's a bottom, and then the stock recovers. After this, you go back to the beginning, repeat the steps, and it happens over and over again, each cycle taking about 2 to 3 years to complete. I do trim profits whenever Nvidia reaches past points of resistance or it makes new all-time highs, but I also believe in Nvidia for the long term. I've been investing for more than 25 years, and one of my key disciplines is that it is important for an investor to be both long and bearish. However, I will never sell the entire position I hold in Nvidia for 3 key reasons. 1. I do believe in Nvidia for the long term. 2, I'm playing with the house's money. If Nvidia goes to zero tomorrow, I'll still have tripled my investment. And 3, I could be wrong. In fact, I'm always wrong. If I sold it all, Nvidia would end up figuring out a way to resurrect Jesus Christ tomorrow, and the stock would rocket to $1 million a share. Because of this, I need to be able to take pain. I understand that over the time that I hold Nvidia, it will sell off dramatically, but that's okay because I take profits when it reaches highs and then I replace those shares once it's sold off.